Good morning, everybody. So I just thought I'd do another little vlog type thing. Haven't done one for a little bit. It seemed to work just at Christmas time, I think, is when it was kind of, one video consolidating a few different ideas. So got a little list of things I want to go over. Starting with this right here. I'm undertaking, I haven't trimmed now for a month and a half kind of thing. I was kind of trimming, but I'm going for the full year beard. I'm going for the yeared, so no trimming. Got some, it's going to be interesting because I have some gaps here kind of thing, and it doesn't come out full around here, but we're going to see what happens. All I did was just trim a line there. Kind of kept it all neat there, but got myself some beard oils, got myself some combs to comb it out. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And then we'll see what happens. So another kind of 10 months, 11 months of growth and without a trim, and that's the whole point is, since, I've had a beard now for quite a while, like almost a full year anyway, but I was trimming it kind of regularly, but the whole point of the year is you don't trim it, you don't clean anything up, you don't tidy anything up, you just let it go and see how it goes. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to this bit down here. Hopefully that grows into a nice white stripe eventually. So yeah, there you go. So the yeared. When I did the video about the minis, the one thing that I had forgot to talk about that I kind of wanted to add to was this from, I think it was Yeah Dude Comics. I know that I've shown this before when I first got it, but I know that not everybody watches all the videos and that sort of thing, and I kind of wanted to include this in the whole mini comics kind of category, just kind of get a closer look since some time has passed. So it comes in a really great box. Yeah Dude gives you a listing of everything, opens up to everything inside, just housed inside the box. Let's see, some of them won't have titles on it or names. I'll look before kind of go into all of them. I wish I was more familiar with some of the artists. It would make it a little easier. But anyway, here's the first little one. I'll list them off when I know the names for sure. I don't want to misrepresent one of the artists by saying that it's somebody when it's not them. So here's the first little mini one. One of the, what is it, Beagle Boys, right? Kind of looks like the Beagle Boys from Donald Duck or Scrooge. Let's look at the interior. It was a really cool little deal. It was like a limited number of copies of stuff. I don't know, I just thought it was really cool, and it was especially, I think it was the first time I ordered from Yeah Dude Comics, so it was early on in my kind of delving into some of these little small press publishers, and really pleased with the outcome, especially now looking back and being a little bit more familiar with some of the people. Let's see. Hadaka. I'm not sure if that says Erica or Irina Davidson. So that's who did this one. It's the front cover there. So look at the back. And then just a quick look through some of the pages inside. These are, I guess a little more along. There is story in some of them, but they're they're definitely a little more of the art comics as opposed to, you know, kind of narrative comics. I know that there's a couple in here that are a little more on the narrative side. Daily Routine by Tara Booth. This is a thick little mini here, and I like the way this one is broken down, with those being the panels. So instead of like really designating borders to everything, it's just kind of a fluid story all the way along, which is pretty great. And just of, as it says, kind of her daily routine of stuff. It's a really neat one. I really like this one. Mostly for like that layout. The individual page, you can kind of see it as an individual page, and then kind of seeing that there's a little bit of a story throughout is pretty fantastic. So, and then this is Face Force by Ian Harker. For some reason I always want to call him Ian Harkin, but it's Ian Harker, Face Force. There's the front, and there's the back. Farewell, reader. A look at the interior. Again, one that's a little more of a narrative in it. A little harder to see on the camera, this one printed on the red paper, but hopefully you get a little bit of an idea. And it's all these stuff are printed on like a kind of a card stock, so not just simple photocopying. And I like, you know, like something like that. You can see the top edge is all nice and uneven. That's kind of cool. So there's the back cover of this one. This one is called, let me just have a look here. Korgok, I believe. McKinley. It's really hard to see the names if you look on this here. Just the way that it's printed, it's kind of, some of them are a little more legible than others. But anyway, here's a look at the interior of that one. It's like a killing spree kind of book. You know, the Shaolin Cowboy method of comic strip. Just one big fight. This one just dense with images of monsters and fighting, and there we have a really cool creature there. Intergalactic Geographic, Yeah Dude Spring Annual, Josh Burgraff, who we've seen before in some comics that I have. So there's the front cover of that one. And I really, this guy is turning out to be another one of my fast favorites for sure. And there's a look at the back cover there. It's got a very cool style, and it's interesting because the one that I had before, it's definitely more creature-ish, alien kind of creatures, but it's neat to see him tackle some more kind of human forms and things. So look at this one, and then the color of paper on this one really works. I think I love the yellow with the black line. I think it looks phenomenal. So look at that too. Yeah, so he's definitely a name that I'm going to be searching for. And then at the end, a bit of an ad for Future Shock. This is Hot Desert Fever by Josh Bayer. So, on the back it says copyright 2013, a Sylvester Stallone graphic art presentation. So there you go. There's a look at that. And there's a look at the back. I really like the homemade feel of some of these, especially when you're getting art like that. I gotta say, the red is my least favorite color. Even, like, I know on camera it looks even darker, but even in person, I don't know. I guess I like my comics to pop a little bit more. So this one's a little more of a narrative too. Let's look at that sucker. One called Diabolic by Pat Aluzio, who I think I've mentioned before as somebody who's not necessarily one of my favorites. But there you go. There's that. There's the back. And I'm assuming that it's reference to the Italian Diabolique, created by two sisters, I believe, right? Is that right? Mr. A, I'm sure will have some information on that. And it was also turned into a fabulous Mario Bava movie, which if you haven't seen Danger and Diabolic from Mario Bava, man, I can't recommend that movie enough. It's pretty phenomenal. So there you go. There's a look at that one. Entering a room full of people. Let's see if I can find the name on here. Thomas Toye, I believe that's T-O-Y-E. It's the front there. Nice looking back cover there. Very the heavy metal dude in a high school type of drawings in there, which is pretty fantastic. That one there is pretty great. Some plants in the middle. The Goiter by Keenan Marshall Keller. Another thick one as well. It's the back of that one. Her name, I'm not familiar with this name. But this is very, very dense. The card stock on this one is even thicker. There you go. Let's look at that one. And then now on to another guy who, oh, here we go. Hey, look at this. This also comes in it too. So there's the printout of all the names right there. I'll just hold that. Hot Desert Fever, Face Force, McDonald's National Cemetery, etc., etc. And this one from a guy who is another kind of high up on my list, Box Brown. This is softcore. And if you've seen that other video of Box Brown stuff, you know what to expect. Very specific style. Really, really cool. This was a pretty entertaining one as well, about a guy who's going to film his own amateur porn to put up on the internet and make some money on. So there we go. Those are all the books that came with this fantastic little set. Now let's put them in this way. So yeah, I just wanted to include that in the talk on the whole mini comics thing that's been happening. I'm almost done understanding comics. Um, I've got maybe just under 100 pages to go, kind of thing. And I gotta say, I'm enjoying it. It started off a little slow. I don't want to talk too much about it right now. The reason I'm bringing it up is I've been talking to Spiro.geek, and I have a message out as well to somebody else I haven't heard back from, but which is fine. We're hoping to. I'm hoping to have a conversation with Spiro about it on my YouTube channel next week. We haven't set a specific day yet, but I think there's a lot in here worth talking about. The section that I'm on right now that's really interesting me is he's talking about just the line work itself that makes up the illustration, and what different lines meanings can symbolize, from the more precise to the more sketchy and all that kind of stuff. Fascinating. I think there's a lot in here that's kind of interesting for just kind of conversation and a debate, maybe, because there's a couple of things early on that I wasn't completely sold on. It's really getting into the meat of it now for me. There was some parts that kind of were a little slower, but again, I don't want to talk too much about it right now. But obviously, I'll keep you posted when that happens. So far, it looks like it'll be me and Spiro. It'll be something that's a later at night kind of thing, just because of the time difference between us, between me here in Winnipeg and him in New Zealand. So we'll sort it out, but I'll be sure to post something to let you know when it happens. And then speaking of Spiro, the last thing that I have on my list is his video where he had some tagging going on, where he was tagging everybody in the community with some questions that he had. I thought it was a kind of a neat one, so I thought I'd just give it a try. I've never really participated too much in the tagging, except for the covers thing. I thought that was kind of a neat one too, but... So it was 8 questions. The first was, what series or character do you miss? There's kind of 2 answers to this one. I get a little bit of a dose of him because we're reading the Avengers books, me and my son. But I do miss Doctor Strange. I do like Doctor Strange as a character. But I gotta say, a character that I really do miss, and going through my comics again, it's a series I might like to read again, and some of the later series that I only kind of got a few issues of before I kind of lost interest in it, I'd love to revisit and pick up those issues to fill it in, is the Spectre. I really, really loved the Spectre, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Scott Running with Comics that was picking some of those up. I think it might have been him. Just seeing those covers again really brought that back in me as well, which is why I started kind of looking through my Spectre comics again. There's something about it I liked. I liked kind of the supernatural books in general. But there was something about that character that I really found fascinating. Him and Corrigan really worked well together, and I don't know, it just really did well. There was some of the late, when they brought him back for, like, you know, whatever it was, volume 4 or volume 5, or I don't know what the volumes were. It didn't interest me as much, and I never read any of the... When was it a Green Lantern that had become the Spectre? I didn't read any of those because that tied too much into the kind of superhero mainstream books, and especially at that time when that was happening, I wasn't reading superhero books, I don't think, at all. I mean, if I was, it maybe was like some Batman or something like that, but it just didn't appeal to me, and even now I don't know if I'd go back and revisit those books. But I kind of miss the Spectre. It would be interesting to... It'll be interesting to go back and read all those. And then there's, what series or character did you used to love but now don't miss? I used to really love Shade the Changing Man. I have that entire series. But I can't say that I miss him. I think that might have been one of those books that, at the time, had a certain resonance for me that I don't know if it would hold over to now. If I reread it, I don't know if I'd enjoy it as much. I mean, I could completely be wrong, but it's a character that that I used to really love. I don't know if I miss it now. I don't think if a new Shape the Changing Man book came out, I wouldn't be kind of chomping at the bit to get it. You know what I mean? So, what modern series or character would you like to stop? It's a really hard one. I don't read any of them because I don't like them. So I guess like X-Men could stop and it wouldn't faze me that much because I don't read them. I don't really have interest in that X-Men world. I gotta say though, I do have a little bit of interest. No, I'm wrong about that. Sorry. No interest. I'm confusing titles in my head. That's why I didn't finish the sentence. So if the whole X-Men series, all of them kind of stopped, it wouldn't faze me. It would be okay by me. Question number 4 was crossovers, love, hate, or meh. I'd say at this point, I'm kind of meh about the whole thing. There was a time where I hated them, despised them. But honestly, reading this Infinity, because we were reading Avengers and New Avengers already, we just ended up picking up the Infinity book. I really enjoyed reading that with my son. And again, I've said it many times before, but I think the main reason is because I was reading it with him, so it was kind of seeing his enjoyment with it as well as my own. So I'm kind of meh about the whole thing. I could take them or leave them. I don't have strong feelings to them either way, you know. What current character do you wish had their own series? Again, I kind of said it at the beginning. I'd love to see. I think Spiro said it too. I'd love to see a Doctor Strange series again. I think that would be fantastic. Is there a DC one that I'd like to see? Not that I can think of off the top of my head. No. Yeah. I mean, Daredevil would be, or not Daredevil, sorry, Deadman would be great, but again, I'm kind of on the fence about Deadman as a character now. It's another one of those books that I think that if I went back and read them, I don't know if I'd enjoy them as much as I did the Spectre character. So yeah, I guess that's my answer to that one. What character series do you think is overdone or overutilized? I think a lot of people maybe agree with it. I kind of said it already. Like the X-Men's and the Avengers are definitely overdone. I think there's too many titles of them, and I think Batman goes in that too. There's too much, and the whole problem with a character being overused or overutilized or overdone is that it makes it really hard. Like I had said before when I was talking about the Grant Morrison Batman Incorporated, because something happened in that one book, it had to cross over to the other ones. So because there's so many titles, it's really hard to get a nice individual story. If they left each of them separate, it would be a different deal, because then you could just read the one book and just get that story without it affecting everybody else's story arcs. But they don't do that. So because of that, it becomes overutilized because you have them spread through so many books. It kind of spoils the reading experience overall. What character or series do you think is underdone or underutilized? That's really hard because, I mean, I'm assuming this is kind of with the mainstream, like the big two kind of books. So I'm keeping, when I looked through these questions and when I thought of some answers, I kept thinking Marvel and DC. I wasn't thinking Image or Dark Horse or anything like that. It's hard to say because with the mainstream ones, they're pretty good at utilizing all of their characters for the most part. You know, there's not very many that are kind of underutilized, you know. I mean, my initial reaction is like a Daredevil or something, but I don't think he's underutilized. I think he's used really well. Underutilized. I don't think I have an answer for that one. I really don't think I have an answer. What type of book or genre do you wish there were more of? I'm a big crime fiction fan, so I'd love to see more crime books. I think that would be great. I know it's a genre that can get pretty stale, but I mean, in that genre, we can do like crime or like a Gotham Central, like focusing on the cops and stuff like that. There's a couple of avenues you could approach it from. I think that would be good because like I said, I really like that, and you can do like heist books and stuff like that. I think that would be pretty fantastic to see some more of that. So there you go. There's the answers to that. The last thing that I don't have written down on here is I had a chance to catch, now that we've got TV, there's a couple of shows that I'm kind of recording and watching religiously. One of them is Bizarre Foods America. I fucking love that show. It's fantastic. I've eaten some weird shit in my life, but this guy eats some weird shit. But that said, it's a great show because there's a whole bunch of great ideas. This summer I want to really try some cooking missions and building some stuff outside, and maybe even trying some hunting this year. We'll see. But that's not what I want to talk about. There's one called Ink, and it's about comics, and it's a half-hour show that's kind of, I think it's on the Space Channel here in Canada, and I think it's like an IFC co-production, and it's a half-hour, and the host is this guy, used to be the singer of a band called the Headstones. His actual name is escaping me right now. I bring it up because I watched one today. I kind of have our PVR thing just set to tape it whenever it's on, no matter what channel, no matter what time. And there was one they were focusing on politics in comics, and they talked about, like, you know, the Captain America, and when comics were used as propaganda against, like, Adolf Hitler and stuff like that, and to get people into going to war and supporting the war effort and things like that. What's fantastic about the show is, I mean, it is very rudimentary. It doesn't go into great depth about most things. It kind of gives you a good enough idea about the books, though, which I like. But it also focuses on some indie type of books. Like at the end of that one, they talk to Joe Sacco, who has put out some stuff, I think, with Fantagraphics, and maybe with Drawn and Quarterly as well. Palestine was a big book of his, where he's maybe more of like a journalist, but he's, instead of kind of writing articles for newspapers, he does graphic novels or comics, and he does it in a comic form, which I think is fantastic. His style is really great. But the point of this being that the show is just, I think it does it really well to not only give you a little bit of insight into a specific topic, because each show is kind of topic driven. You get to see some great little interviews. Who did they have on today? They had Brian Azzarello talking a little bit. They had Ed Brubaker talking. They had, like I said, Joe Sacco, and those are just like the three off the top of my head. They have a couple of guys from the University of Waterloo who kind of teach literature and history, and one guy kind of focuses more on comic books as a medium. So you get kind of like the educated, quote-unquote, kind of slant to the whole argument and the kind of dissection of comics. I find it interesting, and especially for a half hour, I'd love to see it a little more in-depth, and I'd love to see the hosts' segments being a little less cheesy. But that aside, I think it's a pretty interesting show, and it's nice to see something like that on TV, period, because I know there's still a lot of people who maybe look at comics a certain way, and this kind of gives them an in, something that's a little more palatable in kind of a half-hour dose. So if you haven't seen it, or if it's available where you live, I'd say give it a shot and just check it out. That, and that. I think that's everything on the piece of paper that I wanted to talk about. The only other thing is maybe kind of a focus. Where did you go? I lost you. There you are. The only other thing is maybe a focus on what's going to happen this year as far as my reading is going. It's by no means a New Year resolution or anything. I haven't bought books. I haven't been to the comic shop for weeks after Christmas, and especially this time when we're kind of having downtime at work. I just can't justify going every single week. So it's been about a month since I picked up my books. So I'm quite a bit behind, or 3 weeks or something like that. I want to kind of focus a little more on the small press stuff this year. I think is really going to be a driving force. I follow a bunch of people on Tumblr on my phone, and through that I'm following a lot of artists, a lot of indie artists, and also I'm following like the Yeah Dudes and the Future Shock and some of the publications and companies that I've bought from before already. And through that it's really great because you get a little bit of, every once in a while they'll post something from somebody that they're following, which might be another underground artist. So I've been finding that pretty fantastic because I've kind of built up a repertoire of people that I've never heard about. So it's just showing me this whole other world that's out there in these kind of small press and indie publishing companies. So I'd really like to focus on that more. I'd really like to put more of my money towards that. I'm still going to go to the comic shop. There's still books that I'm dying to read, like Fatales and the Manhattan Projects and everything else, Sex Criminals and whatever. So I'm not by any means just abandoning everything else, but I definitely want to have my channel too, especially. I want to try to get Mr. Tom involved a little more, maybe like a once a week segment or a once every 2 weeks segment where it is me and him talking maybe a bit more about the mainstream comics, because I'd like my personal ones to be more of the indie ones, and I'm hoping to try to do a couple more Google Hangouts. I'd love to instigate the underground chat again, whether that's with Spiro. That would be fantastic, obviously, but I mean kind of open it up to anybody else who'd like to talk about that sort of thing, who's into that world maybe, or who's curious about it, or who just has opinions on it. So that would be right there an open invitation if anybody wants to get in touch with me who'd be interested in appearing on camera and kind of doing a chat. I welcome anybody who would like to, and we'll try to work out something with our schedules. And yeah, that's kind of it. So thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe and tell your friends, and thanks everybody who's been commenting on the record videos. Those have been really fun to kind of edit and put together for people. It's very limited the amount of people who watch those, but whatever, it's totally fine. Yeah, thanks for watching, and beard on.